You're making no sense. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
I want to start today's episode.
Well, you're not allowed.
Well, I guess our work is done here.
Good night, everybody.
I want to start today's episode with a little quiz.
Oh, okay.
I don't expect you to ace this quiz. I certainly wouldn't. But I think it'd be interesting.
Should the concerned citizens take this at home?
Yeah,
along with me,
it would be a wonderful quiz to take at home. It's only a couple of questions.
Okay. Don't stop driving to wherever you're driving. Just pull out a notebook, put it on the steering wheel.
I don't think that's the.
If you're in the middle of
advice.
if you're in the middle of a set, drop the weights as loudly as possible.
Yeah. Shout out the answer to this if you know it, wherever you are in the world. Do you know the largest order of mammals?
The largest order of mammals.
We separate mammals into orders. There's 27 orders of mammal.
Mm-hmm.
And their size is determined by the number of subspecies that we would put in that order.
Okay.
So, do you know the largest order of mammals? Like what type of mammal is the most abundant?
Okay. What type of mammal is the most abundant by number? We're talking about by number of
number of species, by number of participants on the planet.
A mammal. So, I mean, because obviously the answer overall I would think would be insects, but by mammals,
yes,
I'm gonna say, fuck, dude, it's got to be rats.
It is rats.
It's
that is correct.
Be rats.
Rats are the most abundant mammal on the planet. In fact, Rodentia, which is the name of the order, comprises 40.5% of all mammals.
So this is Rodentia, not just rats. So this is
but you could just say rat. I mean, there's like 1,200 subspecies of rats or something.
Mice. We're talking about like any of that.
Rodentia.
Because here's what I'm gonna say. I would imagine like yes rats, but what about all the hamsters that we have to let go? From classes, from like you buy a hamster and then you decide you don't want to take care of the hamster, and your parents say like, oh, don't worry, I'll take the hamster back and I'll take the hamster to a place where they take care of hamsters, and then they just fucking let it out the back door and they go, die rat, die.
That's why you see so often on the side of the road just little translucent plastic balls rolling along the side of the highway, because these little hamsters have nowhere to go.
That's right. It's a wide shot of the little hamster ball. It's small on the side of the road and it's rolling, and there's a sunset and it's playing. Yeah. Everybody's talking at me. I can't hear a word they're saying.
Yeah.
Must be the echoes of my mind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now we have to pay a licensing fee for this episode. That'll be fun.
No, podcasts are illegal. Podcasts don't follow any laws.
Okay, so we've established there's a lot of rats. Do you know what the number 2? This is why this is a quiz, because I'm not interested in rats this episode. We're going to number 2. We're going to talk about the number 2 largest group, which I would never have been able to come up with. This one is a shock to me. I'll be shocked if you can do it without Googling. Don't Google.
I'm not going to Google. The second largest. Okay, so let's think about it. It's something that has to be, because here's the trick. I think I only knew rats because New York, like living in New York.
Right.
And like there was this whole thing in New York of like how many rats there were per person.
Yeah.
And then there was that book that came out like a decade ago called Rats, that was like literally how like humans and rats evolved together in New York. So like for me, it was already in there. Okay. So it's got to be something that is equally surprising.
Yeah.
And they got to be small enough.
It's equally icky. That's my hint. Equally icky. And it's a mammal.
Equally icky. Equally icky. And it's probably small. It's probably the same thing as rats, where they're everywhere, but you don't think about it.
Yep.
Whales.
No, you'll be
probably like whales are just out there. They're just everywhere, dude.
Pretty far down the list. Whales.
No, man. Like I'm thinking about how much of the world is ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably whales.
I think you're thinking of the largest order at SeaWorld. I think that's what you're thinking.
What about the rats of the sky, Jeffrey? Sky
ding,
rats.
Ding, ding. You got it. It's bats.
That's stupid. It shouldn't be bats.
It's bats. Bats are number 2. Bats are the number 2 most common order of mammal.
Do you know why that popped into my head?
It was what they're actually called. Chiroptera.
Chiroptera
are basically bats, and there's like over 1,000 different subspecies of bat.
Yeah, Chiroptera is Chiroptera is the one where you lay down on the table and they crack your spine.
Yeah,
and that's a bat that does that.
That's a bat. Yeah,
that's a bat that does that.
You go to the chiropterist.
So my parents were right when they told me that they're not real doctors.
Yes, be careful. You don't want to get a bad Chiroptera because they will screw up your neck.
Now, what does Chiroptera evolve into in Pokemon?
In Pokemon?
It's an Alolan Chiroptera.
I think it's Chiroptomax. I don't know, something like that.
The only reason I thought bats was because of it popped into my head because we have friends in Austin. You know, there's the Austin Bridge where the bats live under the. And I remember somebody telling me that like there are more bats in cities than anybody knows about.
Dude, I was shocked about this because evidently bats exist on every continent except Antarctica.
Cowards.
They are.
We still beat bats. We still beat bats, baby. We're in Antarctica. We're in Antarctica. Are we not?
That's true. We are. We beat bats. Primates, actually, of which humans are a part, are pretty low on the list.
That's the thing is you would think that we're pretty high up because we always think about the exploding population, right? Like how much the population's just growing over time. There are billions and billions of us, and I'm like, baby, do you know how many billions of anything you can fit into a small space?
And there's less diversity in our subspecies too. So the number the range is rodents, bats, then like I don't even know how to pronounce this one, but it's hedgehogs, moles, and shrews is number 3.
That's adorable.
Yeah,
that's actually very adorable that they're number 3. I love that for them.
Yeah,
I love that. I love a hedgehog and a mole wearing a scarf and drinking a little tea in a hole, in a warren, in a burrow. You know.
Yeah. Oh,
and there's so many of those tea parties going on right now.
Definitely a tea party.
There's so many.
It's a Secret of NIMH type experience.
Oh, no. Happier than that.
So then number 4 is primates.
Okay.
And then after that is even-toed ungulates, which is basically pigs, camels. And there's your whales. Whales are in there too. I don't know why a whale is.
Where number 4? I wasn't too far off.
Classified with pigs and camels, but there you go. Okay,
dude, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. We don't need to know it.
Yeah,
I'd like to know it now. Now it's gonna bug me. I want to
talk about bats. We're talking about bats.
I freaking love bats.
I love bats. So bats are divided into 2 suborders: crime
fighting, and non-crime fighting.
That's right. What do we know about bats? We know
you have your Batman.
We know they're blind. We know that they love kindly billionaires whose parents have been murdered after leaving the opera.
We know that they strike fear into the hearts of criminals everywhere because they're a superstitious and cowardly lot.
That's right. That's right.
They're broken up into 2 orders. There's Batman and Man-Bat.
Yes.
And you think they're related, but they're really not. Genetically, they're not as related as you would think.
No, lot different. It just the transposition of the the names there has a lot of implications.
That's right. Plus the hyphen.
Oh yeah, the hyphen. So they have two suborders, Megachioptera and Microchioptera. So there's literally megabats and microbats.
Dude, like the little bat, like the little bat on the person's fingertip in that photo.
Yeah, the wee bat.
Yeah, the little tiny bat where it's like holding on to its fingertip.
Yeah.
Yo.
Did you know that bats are the only mammal that can fly?
Yes.
The only mammal that has sustained flight, right? Because obviously birds are not mammals. But the only mammal that actually can fly, and Chioptera is actually Latin for hand wing, which is cool because they have little hands.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not what we're talking about either. I want to talk about.
What if we weren't talking about bats at all? That would be wild.
It would be
what
fun,
if you were just like
talking about bats?
You're just like, what if today I'd like to talk about a new kind of robot?
Anyway, AI. We know, of course, everybody knows that bats are blind and they move around through echolocation, right?
Yep.
Echolocation is the process of creating a sound and then listening to how that sound bounces around. So, Daredevil is really a Batman too. I think we've all been aware that Daredevil is a Batman.
Well, okay, yeah, he's a bit of a Batman, but Daredevil does not emit the sound.
That's true.
That he listens to map, whereas bats make the sound.
Very excellent point. Because that's what we're really getting to here with this, finally, the topic of this episode, which is
AI.
That's right.
And not even the one you think. We're talking about the movie.
We're just doing the Haley Joel Osment oeuvre.
Welcome to our Haley Joel Osment fan cast. We're starting, surprisingly, with Pay It Forward.
That's right. And we're really, the whole goal here is to get Haley Joel Osment to be the next Batman. That's right. Guess. That's the goal.
What a weird little Batman he'd be. I love that.
There is there has been, I should say, up to this point, a persistent riddle, a scientific problem that has yet to be solved. And there is a new study that just came out that claims to have solved this problem. It claims to have explained something that we've never been able to explain with regard to bats. And that is, think about when young Bruce Wayne trips and falls and lands in the Batcave.
Yeah.
Right. What's the thing that we know always happens whenever we see that?
He gets back up. That's why we fall.
Not with regard to Bruce, but with regard to the bats. There's hundreds of bats that come shooting out the hole he just made, right?
Yeah. And he stands there and he puts his hand up in awe of them.
Yes.
It's a cool shot.
The bats have been in the cave and there's a tiny opening and they flood through that opening.
Yeah.
Well,
how?
We don't understand how the hell that works.
Right. The moment you said that, how are they not running into each other? How are there not 1,000 bats falling to the ground?
Exactly.
You try to get 15 people through a door that's wide enough for them, and they will push and punch and fall over and get mad. How are these bats doing it?
How do they do it?
We were just talking a couple weeks ago about the people who got squished into the tunnel.
Right. Yes. Yes.
At the Love Parade.
And those people have the gift of sight.
Yeah.
Bats are echolocating. So theoretically, they're shooting their own personal sound to figure out how to move through this space. And if there are literally thousands of bats at any given time leaving a cave and all doing that, how do they not get confused?
What if all the screams are just excuse me?
Pardon me, excuse me.
What if everything a bat is screaming is excuse me? Does that explain it?
I think that might be it. That's not the explanation that this scientific paper came up with.
Okay, well, I guess science forgot about manners.
That's, all too often science does forget about manners. This, by the way, I love the way this has been referred to for scientists who study this is the cocktail party problem. The cocktail party.
Which one's the spy?
The idea
Someone at the party is a spy. And you've got to figure out who. What does this have to do with bats?
Which one is the Batman? I've been chatting with Bruce Wayne this entire time at this lovely cocktail party.
It can't be Bruce Wayne. He's drunk. He's rude. He's loud. He's clumsy. It can't be Bruce Wayne.
Definitely not Bruce Wayne. Although the height and build certainly match.
Sure. And the fact that his body is 78% scars.
Yes. And the rest of the percentage is muscle. Yeah, that's an odd thing. Yeah. And when I dropped my drink, he managed to clutch it out of the air.
Oh, well, that means he's Spider-Man.
Oh,
sorry.
All
Spider-Man catches it on a tray. Did he catch it? Did he catch it on a tray or in his hand? Because that's how you tell the difference.
That's how you know whether you're in DC or Marvel.
That's right. So, okay, the cocktail party problem is what?
The idea being, if you're at a cocktail party and you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, it's much more difficult than if you were just the two of you standing in an empty room, right? The ambient noise drowns out what you're trying to do.
Yes.
So that's the metaphor that they use to talk about how is it that all these bats who are all screeching, we all know, we've seen the scene in Batman origin movies over and over and over. They all screech, they all fly out, but these scientists, by the way, this is a study that was done at Tel Aviv University in Israel. And I was going to say go fighting, but
we don't say that.
Wrong. That's
no.
I
think what we would like is for them to go less fighting over there.
Less fighting total in general.
Yeah, if we could just pull back on that like 7 million% and maybe learn to apologize, that would be great.
That would be awesome. Anyway, these scientists at Tel Aviv University have said that they have been studying this massive movement of bats out of these caves, and they said it's almost never do you see a collision. Almost never. It is extremely rare. In fact, one of the guys has a quote that says, when you do see a bat run into another bat, it's pretty exciting.
Exciting.
I think this guy needs bigger hobbies, but okay. All right.
Yeah. I would also say he needs a little more empathy.
Yeah. Again, manners, empathy. It's really a Miss Marble kind of situation.
That's right. So it's extremely rare.
So they somehow manage it, even though it doesn't really make much sense. They have been able to determine what they call the process of too much noise in this small space. They call it jamming, right? Which makes sense. We can understand that idea. If you're trying to, have my it's like on the submarine, right? If I'm trying to use my radar, my ping, boom, boom. Well, if I can throw a bunch of noise in there, you don't know which ping is your ping, which ping is my ping. We're jamming your signal. Yeah. Right?
It's everybody's Wi-Fi networks are too close to one another.
That's right. Anyway, by the way, this study was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science.
Oh, they got the PNAS. That's the big one.
The big one.
Congratulations on the big PNAS.
Thank you. So how do they do it? How do they do it? Well, these guys who have been watching these bats from these caves decided to, instead of looking at it as a macro unit, as a large group and figure out how to do the large group, they decided we're going to look at individual bats and see if we can take it from the perspective of a single unit attempting to navigate this situation. Because there's been some study before, I think there was a study in 2010 that basically said that, hey, oftentimes what they will do is change the frequency of their echolocation, right? They'll move the frequency up slightly, but that still doesn't explain it, because if they're all doing that, it's not like we have 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 different frequencies to choose from. It's not like
also, I'd imagine it's like a choir singing, right? Eventually, it doesn't matter that everybody's singing different notes; it blends together.
Right. Yes. So that does not explain it sufficiently, right? That shouldn't. work? And it's not like every bat is going to just magically know the frequency that nobody else is using, right? That just, it doesn't make any sense.
If you boop the bat's nose, it does a little scan for the best channel.
Yeah, that's true. That's you got to really do a lot of booping. There's like hundreds of thousands of boops that happen.
It's adorable though. When that tiny little bat's on your fingertip and you do the little boop and it's like scanning.
So these guys literally captured some bats. They said tens of bats. So, not a lot, but tens.
Probably with riddles.
Oh, that's how you capture a bat.
Yeah.
With the riddles.
Mm-hmm. You'll finally best them that way.
Yeah, I guess these guys are technically all jokers. Some way. Technically.
A bunch of jonklers. Jonkling about. So they capture a bunch of bats, and what do?
They tag them with trackers and little microphones that pick up a lot of frequencies. They're much more sensitive microphones than you and I are using right now. They're set to pick up a wide range of frequencies. The problem is they can't bring these bats into the bat cave because then everybody would know where the bat cave is, and then then all the supervillains would get together and have
sure. But I mean, honestly, by the end of Batman and Robin, it's like, who doesn't know where the bat cave is?
That's true. Yeah, and I would imagine even just putting the giant penny in there, somebody's going to notice.
The logistics behind the giant penny have always confused me. Yeah, I understand that the giant penny was from one of his greatest cases, right? Like, I get it. Sure. He was tied to the giant penny.
It's a memento.
Yeah, you want to keep it. Like, that's not the part that confuses me, Jeff. The part that confuses me is getting the giant penny from the crime scene to the cave without anybody seeing it.
I don't understand how that's done. A tarp? Is it a tarp situation? That doesn't seem like enough.
But everybody's going to be like, what was that giant thing going down Main Street in Gotham last night?
Yeah.
What are you?
I don't get it.
I don't get it. And then there's the question of the dinosaur.
Oh yeah. Mysteries. The different mystery than we're talking about. Anyway, so they can't
bring him to the cave.
They can't like put him in the cave to see how, because the moment that they're curious about is the exodus of the cave, right? Is this huge number of bats leaving through a very small opening. And the way they describe it is there's so many bats. I mean, they're talking literally hundreds of thousands of bats in this particular area in Tel Aviv, where they said it almost looks like liquid pouring through this opening.
Okay, so you can't just mic these bats, put trackers on them, put them in the cave, and wait for everybody to exit the cave? That's not what you do?
Evidently not. The way they described it is that they waited until the exodus was happening at night. So basically all the bats going out to hunt, right? And then they released the bat at the opening into the fray. So they're not able to actually get the moment they really want. So they extrapolated some of the information that they got from that into a computer model and tried to model the moment of exodus, right?
Okay.
So it's a little bit of, a little bit of art, a little bit of science, but
yeah, it sounds to me like they didn't actually do the thing.
I mean,
I hate to be that guy.
It kind of sounded to me like that too. And I was like, why don't you just let the bat go home? And then I don't know, but
it feels like even if you release it, even if you bring it in after everybody's leaving, when everybody's going hunting, couldn't you track them coming back at the end of the night?
Yeah, exactly. That it doesn't go into that. It just feels obvious to me. There must be some reason as to know. I don't know.
Maybe they lose connection with the tracker or something. Maybe when it's in a cave.
The guys who have trackers on them aren't let back into the cave. Like, oh, dude, what's that on your leg? Nothing. Yeah. Yeah. You're not coming in here.
Oh, whoa! This guy's wearing a wire.
Exactly.
If you're not wearing a wire, then let me see your leg. Let me see your leg.
It's underneath my wing. What?
Oh, it's underneath your wing. So show me underneath your wing if you're such a big hurry.
Are you gonna challenge me after all we've been through together?
You tell me. You're not answering the question. Are you or are you not wearing a wire?
No.
Oh, go get him out.
So a lot of bats were murdered in the trust with the trust issues. No, I don't know the real reason, but anyway, so they were able to determine, we talked about this jamming issue. They were able to determine that 94% of the echolocations that were being emitted were jammed, were unreadable because of all the other noise and chaos. But they were also able to determine, like this 2010 study, that there were the calls, the little noise that they're making to echolocate, changed in frequency, were shorter and weaker. So they're higher frequency, more frequent, right? There's more of them, shorter and weaker.
Oh,
so here's what they determined. Oh no, I would love to hear your hypothesis based on that.
So as they get closer together, they're essentially like using a much more short range radar that's only going to bounce off the closest things. It's like they can hear themselves because they're surrounded by other bats. And what they're doing is they're using the other bats as almost like a soundproof chamber that they're then bouncing their own smaller sound off of.
That's exactly right. They're no longer concerned with figuring out where the edge of the cave is or where the hole in the cave is. They're going to let the guy at the front figure that out. All they care about is the guy in front of them. So it becomes this wisdom of the crowds. We're all kind of becoming one organism together.
Right.
And all I have to worry, and it's kind of like being in a crowd yourself or in a line, you're waiting in line. Do you know where the end of the line is? No. Do you know what's happening up there? Or is everybody getting tickets? Is everybody being let into Disneyland? I have no idea. All I know is the guy in front of me has moved 2 steps forward, and so I'm moving 2 steps forward.
Right. Hey,
except they're doing it at an extremely fast pace, right?
Yeah. I just thought of the ultimate bat prank. You just fly towards a wall.
Yeah.
And then if you're the bat in front, you just fly towards a wall. At the last moment, shut up, fly straight upwards.
Yeah.
That's good bat prank.
That's sick bat prank. Yeah.
That's honestly, it's one of the only pranks they've got, but it's a good one.
It's a real good one. No. Bat prank. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I like that.
I think it's extremely cool. So it doesn't matter how many of the signals are jammed because I'm not worried about my signal getting past the tiny little space I'm in.
They're going almost from a scream to a whisper.
Yes.
As opposed to a whisper to a scream.
Yeah.
We are the night children.
Again, we're going to have to pay another licensing fee.
Indecision.
Oh, this got to be a very expensive bat episode.
I'm telling you, we're a podcast. We don't obey the law.
Ah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't crash into each other because, you're just worried about it's literally, I'm in a car in traffic. I have no idea. Is there an accident up ahead? No idea. I don't know why I'm in traffic. It doesn't matter why I'm in traffic. I'm not going to crash my car because all I care about are the 3 cars around me.
Right. And it's just like that traffic thing, it just becomes second nature. We're not worried about what's going on.
We're not even thinking about, 6 cars ahead. We're not leaning our head out and trying to find out what the 12 car lengths ahead of me is doing because that really doesn't even affect me. It's not going to affect me for a while. What affects me is where's my bumper and where's the person ahead of me's bumper.
Fascinating. Now what do we do?
That's it. That's the cocktail party, baby.
That's the cocktail party. So now what do we do with this information?
I mean, nothing. We're at the cocktail party and we can impress our friends that we figured it out and all the other scientists are there and Bruce Wayne's there.
we're going from a metaphorical cocktail party now to the actual cocktail party.
Yeah.
Where we're describing the cocktail party problem to other scientists at the cocktail party.
That's right. Yeah.
And they all think we're insufferable.
They wonder why they came to this cocktail party.
Yeah.
The cocktails aren't even that good.
And is Bruce Wayne going to wind up in the fountain again?
He is a rapscallion.
He really is a rapscallion.
Yeah.
And he leaves a trail of broken hearts behind him, and he could not be the Batman.
No way. Batman doesn't behave like that.
No, Batman's very serious.
Yeah. And his voice is so gravelly.
It's so low. It's so low and gravelly. I do think this is wild because I think about lately I've been thinking about all the things that are second nature to us, because we're often talking about how amazing these sort of things that animals do are. And they are. Like it's wild. But it's funny how many of these things that we do that we take for granted that are just instinctive learned behaviors as well.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
This idea that like, oh, the bats just know to go from from a scream to a whisper. But like, of course they do. Like, of course they do. They do this every night. Right.
Well, the other thing that's wild to me is that this is a total forest for the trees problem, right? Because the reason this was a mystery, the reason this was this puzzle that a lot of people had looked at and tried to theorize about and couldn't figure out, is because nobody was looking at it from the point of view of a single bat. At least that's what these guys seem to think.
Whoa.
That everybody was looking at it as this macro problem. Like, how does all this information not confuse everybody? It's like, well, the individual bat isn't worried about all that information.
Yeah.
The individual bat only worries about this tiny little fraction of the information that's happening in its small little bubble inside this grander, larger organism.
It's funny because we think about stuff like that in terms of like birds and fish and things like that. Like, how does the school behavior work? How does the flock behavior work? And you're right. There was so much simulating, like computer simulations, footage taken of like entire flocks of birds and it's like, well, it's wild because we don't know which bird is the lead bird. And it's like, well, nobody has to be the lead bird.
Yeah.
Nobody has to be the lead bird. If one bird sees an obstacle, it turns and the birds immediately near it notice. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. And it's so wild because, when you look at a large group, you forget that it's built from the individual. Although I think about this thing that we talked about a little while back with crowds and the rippling of crowds and how that doesn't seem to be built on an individual. And so I can understand why we didn't think to look at it that way.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. We talked about how you can sort of predict by looking at the macro in that sense, how a large crowd would behave. But it is interesting. I think it's a lesson in problem solving, and you get stuck in a rut of looking at a problem in one way and not like questioning your assumptions. Because you figure all these scientists were looking at how do all of these bats do this, and it's like, well, they're not. It is a tiny little piece of a puzzle. Each bat is just adding a tiny. The edges are informing, and they're just kind of passing that information along. It's wild. Now, that said, these dudes said it was pretty amazing when they collided. They didn't say it never happened.
Right. So what happens to cause a collision?
That's what I want to know. Is it just some clumsy ass bat?
Dude, it's like one rude ass bat. It's just one rude ass bat, dude.
Yeah. Pay attention, Charlie.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. That's man bat.
Yeah,
that's man bat at the cocktail party pretending to be a regular bat. And they're like, he couldn't be man bat. He's too clumsy.
Yeah.
Man bat isn't clumsy like that. Man bat is the scourge of the Gotham skies.
Yeah. I wish all of these clumsy ass Bruce Waynes would be like nice, upstanding Harvey Dent. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
A pillar of the community.
I truly believe in Harvey Dent. I love this, and and it does make me also think, Jeff, about the tiny little microphones they used. I do think about these tiny little microphones, Yeah. Because, like, how small are they, Jeff?
Also, whose job is it to put those on? Like, you got to hold on to a bloodthirsty bat.
Hey, now you are...
Maybe it'll turn into a vampire right in front of you.
No, Jeff, you're generalizing about bats.
They're they're the second most abundant species of mammal because they suck our blood and they want our
Jeff.
Virgins.
That's not true, Jeff. That's not true.
You don't think they want our virgins?
They mostly eat bugs, Jeff. You know that.
Bugs.
Unless you're trying to have sex with bugs. And I don't kink shame. I simply don't.
I don't think I want to be the guy who has to manually apply the microphone to the bat. I don't know.
I want
scary.
to. I want to know how they apply the microphone to the bat. Yeah. I want to know how they do it. I want to try to do it. I bet I could do it. I bet I'd be good at it.
Yeah. That feels like some sort
You
of...
said yeah in a really dismissive way.
No, I don't think you really want to. That's what my yeah was. That's the subtext of that yeah.
Wait, why do you think that I wouldn't want to do it?
I don't think you really want to handle a bat.
To put the little microphone on it?
No.
You wouldn't handle a bat to put I would handle
Here's
a bat.
Here's the problem.
Especially if it's the micro bat, dude, the little tiny bat that goes around your finger. Come on.
Well, maybe the micro bat. But that's not the bat they're talking about. They're talking about like these mega bats. They're talking about these bloodthirsty fucking bats.
They're not bloodthirsty, and they're not huge either. I bet they're small, dude.
I bet they're the size of a large rat.
Sure.
Which is too big for me.
You don't think bats are cute?
No, they're hideous.
You think a bat is hideous?
Dude, their little pug faces, the little like sneering, snarling, fanged mouths. No, thank you.
What?
No, thank you.
What, Jeffrey?
Their little fingers on the end of the leathery skin. Fingers.
Yes, the literal hand wings. We've discussed this.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
And then you gotta put on gloves to do. I'm putting on gloves, but you can't have gloves that are too thick because then you can't manipulate the teeny tiny little microphones.
Jeffrey, look at this guy. That's a cute guy.
I don't know.
Look how cute he is.
I mean, in that position, in that one photo, but you're looking at like 14 other photos where they're terrifying.
No, dude, look at this.
That's no. That's a vampire.
Dude,
a vampire.
He's just chilling.
Look, he's upside down.
Yes.
He's ready to pounce.
He's got a cute little face. He's got a little nose. I want to boop it. Look at this guy.
He's wrapped himself in evil.
No, he's wrapped himself in his own little wings because it's chilly. Look at this guy. He's got big eyes. He's looking at you, and he's sad that you don't find him cute, Jeff.
He's staring at your veins, your arteries. He lusts after them.
He's not staring at your arteries.
He's judging whether or not you're a virgin.
I bet he's still... Okay, now we're getting into something else. Now we're getting into something else that you may want to, like... That you shouldn't even have as an insecurity because you have 2 children.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a little weird.
From a different time.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I think you may be holding on to something.
When I first got into Batman comics, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Batman kept screaming at you for being a virgin. Dude, Frank Miller wrote some weird shit. That's all I've got to say.
He's a dark
the Frank
dude.
Miller time. There was one issue of Batman where you opened it up and it was just 24 pages of Batman pointing at you and calling you a virgin.
Yeah.
And then one lady gets murdered on the last page because it's Frank Miller.
That's why he wanted to kill Superman.
Superman fucks?
No, Superman doesn't. That's the whole point.
Oh,
he's a virgin. Okay. And Lois Lane was trying to save him, but, he was too much of a good guy for that.
Thank you for listening to our science podcast. Our award-winning science podcast.
Somehow.
We appreciate you. And hey, we would appreciate you even more if you head over and interact with the community on our Discord. All you got.
Join our cocktail party.
Whoa. It's a digital cocktail party, which sounds like the lamest thing in the world. I'm sorry I said it that way. I'm going to say it a different way. It's not that. It's cool, actually.
Yeah.
No one's a virgin. Everybody fucks over on the Discord.
I mean, we're not at the Discord.
No, it's not weird. Listen, it's not stupid and it's not weird. And I'm sorry I keep making it sound stupid and weird. No, all you have to do to be a part of it is head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns and support the show.
Yeah, that's the only way this show continues. It's the only way we support the show is your generosity. And then we give you some cool stuff in return. You can join that Discord for just $1 a month. You can get even cooler stuff for more dollars a month, including those little mini episodes at the beginning that you just hear the end of when the episode starts. And we got Q&As, we got videos, all kinds of cool stuff at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Okay, we are the night. Bye.